Alright, there is this one movie I saw that I did not do a review for because I lost my phone, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. But last year or so, I saw a movie about Sherlock. Sherlock Holmes, and I forget exactly what it was called. I think it was called The Woman in Red Velvet, I think. Or Blue Velvet, or something like that. It's based off of one of the Arthur Conan Doyle books. So it's supposed to be a account of what really happened if Sherlock Holmes was a real person, and everyone said they read the books if they were written by if Sherlock Holmes was a real person and um, Watson had published all of his books, so people were reading the Watson books and then they're meeting Holmes for the first time and seeing the man behind the myth and realizing he's different than how he's depicted in the books, which is a fantastic concept, by the way. So um, what it is Holmes is old, Watson is gone. Like, I'm pretty sure he died off at this point or something. I don't know. They just say he's not there anymore for whatever explicable reason. Holmes is an old man on the verge of, um, I guess, death because he's old, and he goes to Hiroshima to get Thorny Ash to help him with his health and memory because he's slipping. And so, doing that, he comes back and then he tries to do his little experiments again, and he finds he's too old to do that. Yeah, conveniently, he's too old, and he passes out from the vapors before he's able to do anything. I'm like, yes, yes, he did. It's like, really, that's how you stop an old man from doing experimental drugs? Is have him pass out from the fumes? Yes, of course. Sorry, it just feels a little contrived, a little lazy, mind you, to get around the morality of it because he's not a moral person. It's like, so we have him pass out. It's like, ugh. So he's living with some family and it's a boy and his mother at the White Cliffs. You know, the ones from like Grace Point, I think, or something. I don't know. One of the famous white pillars or whatever they call them. Anyway, it's like brilliantly white in the background. So whatever the hell they're called. So he basically befriends this child, or the child befriends him, or whatever. They start to become friends, and basically this movie. By the way, the audience for this film, I was the youngest person there by 20 years, and it feels more like this movie should be named Alzheimer's the movie featuring Sherlock Holmes, because it's not really about him; it's about Alzheimer's and the concept of Alzheimer's. So like Sherlock is a bit more of an afterthought. It feels like at times because the real character in this is Alzheimer's. Like, how does that really affect people? And it's like, this is Sherlock supposed to be his last thing? Is the fact that he's suffering from Alzheimer's and how that affects him? It's like, it just feels sad on so many fronts. And it's like, that's how old people feel. They feel so sad. It's like, no, actually, you feel sad because this guy doesn't have anybody. He only has like the one friend. So now he's befriending this new kid in order to just have somebody in his life. The story feels a bit contrived in that way. And then the concept of regret, because of old people, they regret things. So his big regret is that he didn't save this girl from the story that Watson wrote about, which was the woman in red or blue velvet or whatever. He actually saw the early movie shows or serials for it, and he kind of remembered it. He forgot it for a while, then he remembered, and now he's regretting. And then it's like, and there's even one scene where the husband who caused all this, he says, "If only I would have would have given her the damn headstones for her unborn child, then none of this would have happened." It's like, yeah, think, dumbass, because then she goes and kills herself. And even there was a point there where, like, the husband could have done something easily to have prevented this, and then Sherlock could have came in for the save and said, you can come with me because she's like also pretty smart or something. So he also had a position to save her, but he chose not to. So because of these two idiots, she just killed herself. And then now they're both like, oh, if only we. It's like, yeah, okay. So parts of this movie I really don't agree with it. It irritates the hell out of me. Uh, Other than that, it's fantastically acted. I mean, the guy that played Magneto, whatever the hell his name is fantastic in this. Like, you really believe this man has Alzheimer's in some scenes, and it reminds me something similar to. I keep adding it to or putting it together when I have these thoughts when I'm at work, when I, have nothing to do but think. When I have this dialogue that I'm telling you now, kind of rehearsing it in my mind, uh, because I don't think I ever did the review, was to think about as much as this movie as the line of Sherlock Holmes has much isn't as much as in this movie as much to do personally. Like, you could write him out and put in like any old person in this position and it would still be the same. It's about Alzheimer's. It's not necessarily about Sherlock Holmes. It's Alzheimer's that's happening to Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, so it's just as much as Sherlock has much to do with this as much as a actual scientist has anything to do with that last animated GI Joe movie that came out some years ago, like 5 years, something like that, 5ish years ago. It was one of the last like big direct-to-video GI Joe movies, and not that it wasn't creative or action-packed, it was the fact that the GI Joes are like, oh man, Cobra pulled their one of their big, show-stopping, we're gonna rule the world with this mighty weapon ploy, out of their hats again, and the Joes turn to. I swear to God, the title of this movie should be uh, G.I. Joe featuring the Myth Turns. I mean, they turn to these 14, 16-year-old kids and saying, okay, people who are clearly smart, not necessarily geniuses, but reasonably intelligent, and how, solve this problem of how Cobra was able to, uh, you know, cut us off from all satellites on Earth. And there's a kid. She turns around saying, "Well, if I did, there's 4 possible ways," and she lists them off. And I'm like, how are they not going to actual scientists and not these kids? Because that's what they feel like. They feel like the myth turns, not the build team. That one episode where they got the kids, these like elementary to mid schoolers, to come in and spend the day with them. That's what it felt like. It's like, instead of going to your actual scientist team, you turn to, the pretty smart, you know, tag along kid, that's there just to showcase that it's not discriminating against the young, and that's it. Some films feel like that. It's like you're just there kind of more just because, when the focus should really be on you. The focus should be more on Sherlock, necessarily him fighting Alzheimer's so much, which a lot of it is. But sometimes in the movie, it just feels more like it's Alzheimer's the movie, and Myth Turns, the G.I. Joe featuring the Myth Turns and G.I. Joe. It's like top billing kind of needs to, you know, doesn't feel like it needs to be fought over these two concepts. Remember, it's a horror comedy, not a comedy horror. Like Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters isn't a horror. It's a not a horror comedy. It's a comedy horror. It's comedy first, and then a horror film, or horrific comedy, however way you want to say it. But that's the thing, is that whatever is top billing should be your main focus. You know. Um. So yes, sorry, this movie kind of goes in a bit of a ranted directions of explanations, but yeah, if you're gonna make a film, make sure your top billing is your top billing and not your your direction is not overwriting or overlapping your main thing at times. So you're kind of wondering whose film is this really. So yes. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and hope you learned something from it. And if you are curious of what I mean, go look it up for yourselves. You'll see it there. It's like right there. Trust me. So I'll probably get around to the other movies that I probably reviewed or didn't review from a couple months ago. From very on, The City of a Thousand Worlds, kind of onward. I did the Power Rangers. I think I recorded Logan, but I lost my phone before I was able to put it up, so I think that's what happened. So I think I'll have to redo Logan. I'll probably do that next. Alright, so take care.